everybody, welcome back for another sublimation tutorial. Today we're going to check out how to use the DTF sublimation hack on dark colors. Normally we can only use the white or the lighter colors, but I have tested so many different ways to get this to work on a dark shirt, and I have finally figured it out, and I want to share it with you guys because it's a game changer for sure. So normally when we're sublimating on a dark shirt, we have to layer regular vinyl with a clear vinyl or do a glittery vinyl or just some other vinyl. But layering vinyls can make the shirt really stiff and also kind of crack apart. And not everybody wants to wear a glittery t-shirt either. So with this method, it's going to feel thinner. And also, for example, the men that you want to make shirts for, they're not going to have a glittery, sparkly shirt they're wearing around, because we can do this without that. And I'm going to show you the steps here on how to do that. The first thing I want to show you though is what materials you need for this process. So let's go ahead and move on to that. So the main materials you're going to need is DTF transfer film and also DTF transfer adhesive. I prefer using the Yamation brand. It just works really well. I get really good product and results from it. And also, if you do want to try this brand, in the description box there is a links where you can get it, with also 10, 15, and 30% discount codes as well to use in your checkout. For my powder, I use the white medium powder. It just is a little bit thicker, so it has a little bit thicker of a layer. And then for the transfer film, is all the same. This one was, I think, a 50 pack of sheets. They also have the 15 sheet pack as well. The next material we're going to need is a white HTV vinyl. And it's only one layer. You're not going to need to layer it and then do another layer and then sublimate onto it. It's just this one layer, and it's not glittery. With this method, you are using your regular sublimation printer and sublimation ink. I prefer to use the Hiipoo Ink from Amazon. You'll need a heat press, and as always, it's just my little Cricut that I use for all the same projects. If you have a bigger press, it's going to take you less time versus me. I have to do mine in sections. So for me, it takes a little bit longer. For you, it might take a little less time. Just depends on the size of press you have. So let's jump into the steps on how we get this image onto our dark shirt. So as you can see, I already had my image printed out, but again, you can go ahead and check out how I print my images, what size I print my images, what software, and the settings. There's all tutorials for that in my channel, so you can go and check those out. But for sake of time, I went ahead and printed it out. You can see it's not very bright right now, but the point of it is to brighten it up. And those are the colors that we want to show up on our dark shirt. So the first step we need to do is put our powder on to our image and cure it. Normally, if you watch the full tutorial, there's only one layer of powder and we cure it, and then put a second layer of powder and not cure it. This time, for this method, we're gonna put one layer of powder, completely cure it, second layer of powder, and completely cure it. And that's gonna give a very protected coating when we go to press our image. All right, so we have the first coat of powder down, and now we're gonna cure it at 400 degrees. And then you'll notice when it's completely cured, the image will be very clear and it shouldn't look cloudy or grainy at all. So let's go ahead and start that. All right, so we have our first layer cured. Make sure your heat press doesn't touch your film. I accidentally did because it was kind of curled up a little bit. It didn't do anything to the image, but it will definitely stick to your press. So just make sure that you don't touch it. Otherwise it'll melt and it'll just make a mess. Luckily it wasn't that bad of a stick. So now we're gonna go ahead and place our second layer, And again, cure it all the way completely and make sure it's completely set. It can take up to 5 to 6 minutes, especially with a little press, to get it completely cured. So just be aware of that. It might not take 1 minute, it might take a little bit longer, so you have to be patient with it. So let's go ahead and get our second layer on and completely cured. All right, so this is where we should be at this point. Everything should look really nice and flat, smooth, and clear. You shouldn't have any film, or sorry, any powder coming off. It should just be all really nice and covered. And if there's any powder that's left on the sides, just really gently wipe it off. Make sure you're not running your finger across your image, but just the powder off the sides. All right, so let's move on to the next step, and that is working with our vinyl. All right, so I just have the Cricut HTV vinyl, nothing special there. With this, you can either use your Cricut silhouette, whatever you have, to cut out the design so make sure that it fits. Since I just have a square pattern, it's not gonna be super hard, so I'm not gonna do that part. There is a tutorial also back into the channel where it does show how to use the Cricut to cut out your design exactly and then to press it onto the HTV glitter. So there's that, but I'm just gonna cut it out today since it is so simple. So once your image is cured with the powder, you can touch it. It's not gonna smear at this point. Don't be rough with it. Don't go and smear it intentionally, but it is set enough to where you can like set a ruler on it, which is what I'm gonna do to cut my vinyl out in the square that I want it. All right, so now we have our square vinyl or whatever you have cut out and your DTF transfer film image. And I'm probably, as I was doing that, I was thinking I'm probably gonna get questions. When I did print this, yes, I did mirror it because you're gonna flip it over. So you wanna make sure your image flips over to the right side. With this, it probably wouldn't have mattered, but I still always mirror my image. So let's go ahead and move to the next step. All right, so the next step is getting our image onto our shirt. So with this step, you do want your heat press to be at 325, and we're only gonna press, especially your DTF film, for 15 seconds at 325. The vinyl's a little bit more flexible, a little bit more givable with that. So you can do it at 325 to 350 for 15 to 25 seconds. But remember, we're gonna tack this on, and then we're gonna put our image on it, so we don't wanna overheat it. It's still putting a layer of vinyl down, but it's only one layer instead of having to have another clear layer. And you get to do the DTF sublimation hack still. And you still get to do your 100% cotton and no glitter. So let's go ahead and get our vinyl on. I'm gonna line it up as best as I can here. Do make sure that you lint roll your shirt so you don't have any fibers underneath it, because otherwise it'll kind of show up as little bumps, and we don't want to do that. So from here, we'll go ahead and tack our image, our vinyl down. And normally I would put some heat resistant tape, but I'm just gonna get it down here. And I'm gonna put 2 layers just because my press has been running hot lately. And I don't want it to scorch my shirt, so just be aware of that. Make sure your press isn't too hot either. Mine's just doing its own thing lately though. All right, so remember 325, you can do about 15 to 20 seconds just with this part, just to tack it on. right, so we're gonna let that cool off before we peel it. And you can see, like I said, my heat press has been a little hotter than normal lately, so there is a line there, but that'll wash off when you go to wash it. All right, so it is cooled off enough for us to be able to start removing the top layer. Just be really gentle so you don't tear anything. All right, so we have our white little border on there, our background. Now we're gonna go ahead and put our image on and get that placed as well. So with this, again, you still wanna be careful that you're not grabbing anything really too hard. You can grab it and manipulate it, just don't be pulling real hard on it. For this, you're just gonna place it right in the center and make sure you're just lining it up the best that you can. That way you're not having any borders or lines just sticking out all over the place. So I think that looks pretty good right there. Again, I don't usually tack down for this with any tape. The DTF usually sticks pretty well into place, but I do still go ahead and put coverage over when I press. So when you go to press your DTF film, make sure it's only 325 degrees and you're only pressing for 15 seconds. After that, do not peel it right away. It's not a hot peel, it is a cold peel. If you try to take it off too fast, you're gonna lift your image and you're just gonna have a mess. Make sure it's completely cooled off. All right, you guys, let's let it completely 100% cool off. Again, you can kind of see my border line here from my press. It's just because my heat press is being silly lately, but when you wash it, that all does come out. So let's go ahead and let this cool off. You can already see how awesome the colors look on there, and that's just the DTF hack, and it's on 100% cotton and a dark shirt. So let's let it cool off and we'll check out the final results. All right, you guys, so this is completely cooled off. There is no heat to it. So let's go ahead and peel it and see what we get. All right, so there are the final results. As you can see, it does make it really bright on the dark shirt. The vinyl, again, it's still very flexible and malleable, so it doesn't feel real heavy either, like the glitter vinyl would or having 2 layers of vinyl. So it works great if you want to try this method. If you enjoyed this tutorial, if it helped you, go ahead and boop that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share for others so they can get helped as well. Have a wonderful day and happy crafting.